My name is Daria here. I'm the director of Watch CDC. And on behalf of Watch and the Community Day Center, I want to welcome you here. And thank you so much to the candidates for taking the time to be here. Watch has been around for about 27 years, and we've worked with low-income families and households in Waltham. We help tenants with their housing. We also advocate for affordable housing, and we teach English. Those are some of the things that we do. And the Community Day Center is Waltham's day center for homeless individuals, and they can receive services there. There are a lot of forums happening this fall. It's a very busy season. This forum, we really want to focus on how Waltham is doing in relation to services and supports and programs, and how we're working with low-income families in Waltham. It's not something we like to think about, but there are people that are struggling in our community. We want to talk about how it's going and what we can do to improve that situation. We're really lucky to have Paul Cressetti to facilitate tonight's forum. As you know, he's the former editor of our paper, Waltham Tribune, and he's also on Watch's advisory board. Thank you all so much for coming.
Hello. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you again for being here tonight. We're looking forward to a meaningful discussion featuring several candidates for City Council and the candidates for Mayor. Just to do the introductions first. The mayoral candidates are incumbent Mayor Jeanette McCarthy and State Rep and Councilor at Large Tom Stanley. And the Councilor at Large candidates here, from left to right, are Sally Calora, incumbent Diane LeBlanc, incumbent Kathleen McMenamin, Greg Turner, Carlos Vidal, and incumbent Joseph Bizarre. We also have... Oh, no, let's get to that. I got you.
No, we were just doing a lot of jokes.
We also have Ward Councilors Bill Fowler from Ward 2 and Robert Logan from Ward 9. And they are running unopposed. We're going to start with opening statements, and then we'll alternate between questions from the mayoral candidates and the city council candidates. Now, because of the large number of city council candidates, each city council candidate has 3 chips, and we'll put one out on the table when he or she would like to answer a question. If a candidate decides that he or she would be repeating what someone else said, they're more than welcome to pull that chip back. The order will be left to right for those who have expressed interest in answering the question. This does not apply to the mayoral candidates. Both candidates can respond to each question asked of them. In the interest of time, we ask that speakers keep their answers to about a minute. We have someone keeping time in front who will alert you when you have about 15 seconds left and when the time is up. Now, if you go a little over, I'm not going to sound a buzzer or anything or pull you off stage. But if you go much past a minute, I will need to step in and move things along just again with so many candidates here. Out of respect to everyone here, please try to keep answers as concise as possible. And again, we're very honored and excited that there's so many, not only candidates here, but people who have shown up and shown interest in this forum. And just before we get started, please make sure your phones are silenced. Thank you. This forum is being recorded by Annette Reynolds, who will make it available to the HCAC. There will not be questions taken from the audience, but there will be time to talk informally after the formal question and answer period. These questions that you'll hear tonight came from input from local organizations that work with low-income Waltham residents. We have several questions that we'd love to get to, so we're going to get started with the opening statements. And again, let's try to keep these to about a minute. And we'll start with the candidates for mayor first. Mayor Jeanette McCarthy.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. The City of Waltham has provided assistance through federal grants to low-income residents. $1.5 million for improvements to the WHA properties at Winchester Crane, Dana Court, Myrtle Street, and Orange Street. $100,000 for rental programs. an emergency assistance program for those facing eviction or homelessness due to natural disaster, 10 to 15,000 in housing rehab loans, $340,000 for community centers at Prospect Terrace and Chesterbrook, $6,000 for ESL classes, $3,600 for tenant advocacy, $25,000 for a homeless outreach worker, $150,000 for down payment assistance loans with a preference for veterans, 19 units of senior housing at Hardy and 3 at Banks. Now, as to what we could do better. The definition of affordable housing does not really help low-income people. Therefore, last January, the Housing Trust Fund, of which I chair, asked the City Council to change that. And I will be recommending the use of 14 Church Street as an additional shelter, day and evening, year-round. Thank you very much for everybody for coming as well.
And now, State Rep and City Councilor Tom Stanley.
Thank you. I'm Tom Stanley. I'm running for mayor. I love Waltham. It's a great place. There's so many good people in our city, so many good people that are here today, organizations, but I think we all know that we could do better. Waltham hasn't reached its full potential, and the only way we're going to reach our full potential is with a leader in City Hall that has a vision for where we want to go as a community and a strategic plan to take us there. With regards to affordable housing and homelessness issues, the government, Waltham government, and in particular administration could have a much better relationship with our CDC, Watch Community Development Corporation, as well as our Homeless Day Center, which I'm an advisory board member of. And my time is already up, so I'll have to stop there.
Thank you. Now, at-large candidate Sally Colora.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you to the Waltham Community Day Center and Watch, and all of you that took the time to attend tonight. My name is Serafina Colora. Everybody who knows me calls me Sally. And I believe that affordable housing in Waltham is a really serious issue. I have relatives that have to move out of the city. One just recently bought a home in a community west of Waltham because they couldn't afford to buy a home in Waltham. And they are 2 professionals with some adorable little boys, and they didn't want to leave. I believe that we need to focus on ways to make Waltham more affordable. With all the luxury apartments commanding big rents and the increased value of homes in Waltham, buying a home in another community that in Waltham would be a $750,000 house, and they can buy it in another community for $400,000. There's something wrong here that we can probably address and remedy to keep Waltham families and seniors in the city that they've lived all their lives and want to continue to do so.
Now, Councilor Bill Fowler.
No one told me I had a minute opening statement, but I can fill it up easy and short. I'm Bill Fowler. I'm the Ward 2 councilor. I'm just finishing up my first term, running for my second. I am unopposed, so I guess you'll see me again for 2 more years. To be up front, I am on the board of both Watch and the Community Day Center, both of the organizations, sports organizations. So obviously these issues are important to me. And I look at affordable housing as an economic development issue, because if we don't have housing that workers can afford to live in, the business base in the community cannot expand anymore. And as we all know, without that business base along 128, the hotels and so forth, our taxes go up. That's the lifeblood of this city, and my time is up, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Diana Blank.
Good evening. As a city councilor, I have assisted individuals and families with a gamut of housing-related matters, ranging from bed bugs, difficult landlords, to homelessness. I've worked with WATCH, the Waltham Housing Authority, the city's housing office, and Latinos in Action, and have referred numerous individuals to the resources available and have worked with them to obtain benefits and services. I visit several Waltham Housing Authority properties during the year and have worked with the Waltham Housing Authority to advocate for strong tenants associations. I currently serve on the board of the Community Day Center and I'm a regular volunteer at the soup kitchen operated by the Middlesex Human Services Agency. I'm an advocate for increasing the availability of English classes and have worked with Latinos in Action to obtain community block grant funding for this purpose. The issues that we are here to address tonight are complex and require a coordinated community response with shared responsibility among the city and the numerous other organizations already working in these areas that are committed to making a difference. I too am committed to doing more as the need has reached an all-time high. In my campaign literature, I specifically note that I support investing in the creation of affordable housing and services for the homeless and those dealing with mental health and addiction issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Robert Logan.
Good evening. I'm Robert Logan. I'm the councilor for Ward 9 and chairman of the City Council's Ordinance and Rules Committee, which is currently in the process of reviewing the zoning ordinances. Currently in our zoning ordinance, we have an inclusionary housing provision which requires developers of large-scale residential units to dedicate 10% of those units to affordable housing or to contribute an amount equal to those units into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. As a result, we've created quite a number of affordable units, and there's a sizable balance in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I think that we need to use those funds to address this issue of affordable housing and homelessness. Also, I think that we need to use more of the CPA funds for that purpose. In order to have even more affordable units from the inclusionary zoning ordinance and potentially more money in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, I would support changing the set-aside from 10% to 15% of the zoning ordinance review, so I will be supporting that. Thank you.
Councilor Kathy McMenamin.
Good evening. Thank you, Paul. I'm Kathy McMenamin, Councilor at Large and candidate for re-election to the Waltham City Council. I respectfully ask for one of your 6 votes on Tuesday, November 3rd. Thank you, Watch and the Community Day Center for inviting me to participate in this important forum on a very important topic. How is Waltham doing in providing support for our most vulnerable residents, and what could we be doing better? My background includes 34 years as a Boston Public School teacher, 5 years service as a Waltham Housing Authority Commissioner, earned bachelor's and master's degrees from Boston College, mother of 2, grandmother of 5, and election as the first woman ward councilor in Waltham's history. I look forward to an informative, lively, and productive discussion this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Gregory Turner.
Good evening. My name is Gregory Turner. I'm running for city councilor. My friends call me Greg, but you can call me Gregory. I'm asking for one of your 6 votes on November 3rd. I've never run for anything before except for my life, and I'm hoping that this will be a little easier than running for my life. I'm running for city council because, not for the money, because there is no money. I'm not interested in the prestige, but I am here to help people. And this organization, the Watch organization, is obviously a great organization that really helps the most vulnerable citizens in our community. I've been an attorney in Waltham for 32 years. It's time for me to give back. I grew up in Needham, so I am a Brazer. I came here as soon as I could in 1983 after graduating law school in Salem, Oregon. I drove all the way back here just to take an apartment on Lexington Terrace. That's not true, but it's a good story. I'm sticking to it. So I appreciate your vote on November 3rd. I'm one of 6 people running, or 8 people running for 6 seats.
Thank you. Candidate Carlos Vidal.
Thank you, Paul. My name is Carlos Vidal. I'm running for Waltham City Council at large. Been living in Waltham South Side since 2003. I'm originally from Peru. I moved here when I was 12 years old. I want to thank Watch for the opportunity to come and talk to you about this important issue when it comes to affordable housing, when it comes to homelessness and other topics. I think it's nice to see a lot of people here present that really care about these issues. I think that is very important. Since moving to Waltham, I've been involved in many things. I've been actually used to be a member of the board in Watch many years ago when I first moved to Waltham. And we got involved with them because of the affordable housing issue. You might not believe it, but I'm actually a real estate agent. Yeah, I still believe affordable housing is needed. And what it's important in Waltham is it is community. Waltham welcomed me with open arms. I moved here from Boston, from Hyde Park, and it's a welcome community that's very diverse. You don't stay near Waltham. I think my time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Joseph Bizarre.
I am Joe Bizarre. I'm currently a councilor at large. I serve as chairman of the council's Public Works and Public Safety Committee. I'm married. My wife is Judy. She's a teacher at the Whittemore and Fitzgerald schools. I grew up here in Waltham. We have a 2-year-old son. Affordable housing, it means different things to different people. In my case, I grew up in a 3-room apartment on School Street in Waltham, and my parents had pretty good jobs, but that's what we could afford. And that meant that the kitchen was the kitchen, and one of our bedrooms was the living room, and that's the way it was. And there were a lot of families that deal with that. There are families where the fact that the school has a field trip coming up and there's some fee associated with it is a big deal in the house. And as we've moved on as a city, I think sometimes we lose track of that, and that we have to be sensitive to the fact that that not everyone's finances are the same. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have Councilor at-large Pat O'Brien.
Thanks, Paul. First of all, thank you to Watch, to the city, and to all of you for being here this evening, and to everyone watching at home. My name is Pat O'Brien. I grew up in Waltham. I'm a lifelong resident. I live in Cedarwood, and I went to the Waltham Public Schools, graduated in 1988, on to Boston College, graduating in 1992. I was on the council for five terms, and then decided to step down about 5 or 6 years ago. My kids were really little at the time. But then after being off for about 4 years, my wife was part of the New Moms group in our neighborhood, and the majority of that group started to kind of move out of the city to other cities and surrounding cities. I didn't like that. I felt that they shouldn't be leaving Waltham. We have a great city here. Affordable housing is very important for all of us, not just renters, but for homeowners, for empty nesters, and we need to do more with this issue. So I see my time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to get started with the questions now. The first one will go to the City Council candidates. The Community Preservation Committee passed a proposal to fund a 3-year pilot rental voucher project for low-income Waltham households. The rent checks will go directly to landlords, and the Waltham Housing Authority will administer the program. The proposal is currently at the committee level of the City Council. Do you support the use of CPC funds for a local rental voucher program? Why or why not? So we'll start with Councilor Levine. Oh, sorry, Councilor Fowler. Thank you.
I actually made the motion to approve it at the first meeting when it was on the floor of the council. It's an important step. It's not a solution, but hopefully it helps some people at least have the time to move up on the waiting list for permanent housing. My first choice would be that we had built lots of affordable housing. We didn't do it. We haven't done it. The record is not very good. So this is the best alternative to help some people who are struggling. And that's why I support it.
Thank you.
Yield my time to
Councilor LeBlanc.
I do support the use of CPC funds for this purpose. We are required to use 10% of our CPC funds for housing, and the pilot program being proposed is a legal use of these funds. We have an immediate need, and this program will help the working poor. And it's designed only to be a 3-year voucher with the goal of those who receive the voucher coming off after the 3 years. I was at the CPC meeting when Watch brought in their original proposal, and I followed the issue as it moved forward and received close scrutiny from the CPC members. Watch listened and went back to the drawing board, this time working in partnership with the Waltham Housing Authority to produce a new proposal. If you had told me 6 years ago that Watch and the Waltham Housing Authority would be partners in this way, I would have said it will take a miracle. This is such a great day for our city that these two major players are now working together and also working closely with our city housing office to truly make a difference. I will note that there are many other creative ways to address the need for low-income and affordable housing, and I think going forward, our city needs a housing summit in order to bring everyone to the table to discuss what our short and long-term opportunities are. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Logan.
Yes, I support this. The whole reason that the state passed a law with this Community Preservation Act was passed, part of it is to address affordable housing. Obviously, you can use the funds for historical preservation and for open space, but part of it was supposed to be for housing. And that's part of the reason why it was adopted here in Waltham at the local level. That was one of the arguments that was made in favor of its adoption at the time that we adopted it here locally. But we really haven't lived up to the promise on that. There's a lot of money that's gone unspent. It's accumulating, it's still there, and it's available, but we need to develop a plan for what to do with that. But the other thing I would say is that this proposal is really more of a, in my mind, a short-term stopgap measure. Long-term, we should be using these funds to create affordable housing, to solve the problem, not to put a Band-Aid on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McMahon.
Excuse me, thank you very much. The Community Preservation Committee is an appointed board to oversee the tenets of the Community Preservation Act. I have great respect for all the members and voted to approve their appointment on that committee. However, by law, the Waltham City Council has the final financial responsibility for approving the $2,001,500 for the new pilot program of a $1,000 rental voucher per month for 3 years for 50 families. The budgeted money will also include $140,000 administrative fee to the Waltham Housing Authority and $135,000 administrative fee to Watch. I am genuinely concerned that we don't violate anyone's fair housing's right under the law. I believe that Watch lost their certification as a CHADO, which is a Community Housing Development Corporation, and I certainly hope they are able to get it back. But I and one other member of the Long-Term Debt Committee urged the committee to seek the information from the Waltham Law Department, ask them to review the proposal and to vet it thoroughly to provide the City Council with legal guidance as we move forward with this program.
Thank you. Gregory Turner.
Thank you. With the rent checks going directly to the landlords, I think that's good. That means that the money won't be going to the folks that might spend it improperly, on other things other than rent. The question I had is, what safeguards are in place to make sure that the landlords live up to their responsibilities in maintaining the properties that are being rented with this money in decent conditions? The other question I have is, what safeguards are in place to make sure that the tenants are drug-free, crime-free, and otherwise living up to their responsibilities to the landlords and to the city? In other words, are these people, abiding by the law so that we're not simply supporting people who are undeserving or are going to cause trouble for other people in their neighborhoods. I'm all for treatment for drug addiction and prevention, but I think we need to be careful also.
Thank you. Carlos Vidal.
Thank you. As Councilor LeBlanc said, the state mandates that 10% of all CPC funds must be used for housing. So I think this is a step in the right direction. This translates to over $3 million of the $18 million in CPC funds are available in Waltham. I do support the program, of course, and I commend the Community Preservation Committee, Watch, and the Waltham Housing Authority for working hard over the summer putting this package together. For now, as far as I know, we'll help about 50 families, but I'm hoping this program will grow. It is a pilot program, but I'm definitely supported it, and definitely look at other ideas to use some of those funds for affordable housing in Waltham. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rosado.
Thanks. For the reasons that Councilor LeBlanc and Councilor Logan articulated, I'll be voting in favor of this if I ever get a chance to. It's been in committee for a long time, longer than most items are in committee. And if it's people's desire to keep this thing bottled up in committee, I will make a motion on the council floor to discharge the matter from committee so that we all have to vote for it and account for how we feel about affordable housing in the city and whether or not we're in favor of it. You know, this thing is going round and round in that committee week after week, and at some point, we have to discharge the matter and take a vote and own up to it and do what the people of Waltham asked us to do. Vote on the important matters before us. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to the first mayoral question. Could you just pass the Thank you. Thank you.
So for the mayor candidates, Waltham has about $18 million in its community preservation fund and is required to set aside 10% of its funds for affordable housing. What other CPA-funded projects besides the rental voucher program would you support for affordable housing?
Mayor McCracken.
First of all, I do support the amended rental voucher program. I don't believe in giving money in the hand. I believe in subsidizing units, so I am in favor of that. Secondly, there would have to be some kind of agreement between the Waltham Housing Authority, so all of those things would be taken care of. As far as what else, I think there are two issues in the city of Waltham. The first is that there is not enough affordable housing. You know, as 80% is what is under our zoning code, people tell me that's not affordable, Mayor. We need something that's affordable. So I think there has to be an amendment to that, to basically say what is actually affordable to the people in this city so that they can have a home, a house to live in. Secondly, I think you should create more housing. When I first became mayor, I put forth a proposal to the city council, and it was basically to take the housing projects in the city and create two types of housing: apartments, affordable apartments, and affordable condos. I think it's extremely important that you have upward mobility, that you have help, and you have hope to be able to get you to owning your own home. Now, in Boston, they thought that was a wonderful idea. I was not able to get support for a special act over in Waltham, but I still believe that the best way out of any type of poverty is basically to have hope through your own home.
Thank you. Representative Stanley.
Thank you. I also support the CPC application before the City Council for rental voucher, and I argued in favor of it at the last City Council meeting. It's really an embarrassment on the city, all of us, that we haven't done enough in the area of affordable housing with the CPA money that we have, and we need to do a lot more. And that's on everyone. You know, I know I'm out every day knocking on doors and talking to people, and I've talked to so many people that are working hard, working through 3 jobs, and now being asked to leave their apartment because the rent is going up. The prices in Waltham have been going through the roof. I'm running out of time, but I've had discussions with the chairwoman of the CPC committee about coming up with other ideas on what we could do, and she is, the committee is doing a lot of work on that area, so that we'll have a better understanding of what we could do as a community. I personally would like to see us partner with local builders to buy, run-down multifamilies and fix them up and sell them as affordable condos that have to stay affordable condos.
Thank you.
So this next question will go to the city council candidates first, but it's also going to go to the mayoral candidates. Recognizing the increased prevalence of homelessness in the state due to widespread economic hardship, the insufficient availability of safe, affordable housing, and a weakened social safety net, the state legislature is considering a homeless bill of rights. This bill would prevent discrimination of homeless individuals based on housing status. These rights are to move freely in public spaces, the right to equal treatment by municipal agencies, freedom from discrimination in employment, the right to emergency medical care, the right to register to vote and to vote, freedom from disclosure of records, and right against unreasonable search of personal property. If this act does not become law, would you, as a leader in Waltham, support a local response providing these protections? Councilor LeBlanc?
Thank you. The short answer is yes, I would support this. No one should be discriminated against because they do not have a permanent address. But legislation in and of itself is not enough. There would also need to be considerable community education of employers, city officials, and others, including the homeless, around exactly what this means and doesn't mean. For example, while all should have the right to move freely in public spaces, if a park closes at dusk, that too applies to all, including the homeless. Another example, while an employer should not be allowed to discriminate because someone is homeless, the employer also has the right to expect the homeless employee will be a good employee that consistently shows up and does the job well. Because those who are homeless often are dealing with many issues, including addiction or mental illness, it is often difficult to keep a job. And this is where we need to provide real support for our homeless through case management and real services, including treatment. I'm encouraged by the case management work being done by the Community Day Center, and also that the city has contracted for outreach services to do case management for the homeless. Again, my point is legislation is important, but not enough. All involved truly need to understand their responsibilities relative to such legislation.
Thank you. Any other council candidates? Councilor O'Brien?
Thank you, Paul. As an individual who works in the health insurance field, I've had a lot of agencies, social service agencies as clients, including the Pine Street Inn and in Boston. I had the opportunity to volunteer there several times to help out. And I'm going to the Providers Council meeting on October 19th, and what I find is a lot of these social service agencies don't have adequate funding. A lot of their funding gets cut, unfortunately, when the budget comes through, so we need to make sure that they have enough money to do the job, to get out there and help these folks who are homeless, particularly the veterans who are homeless. They need to be helped out, because if you don't have a job and you're on the streets, it's like an endless spiral. So we need to get that first step, get them some education, job training, housing. You need to have a roof over your head, especially in the wintertime, with the brutal winter we had last year. I know the city opened a building or two to try to help folks get through the night. So it's all about getting them the job training, getting them the housing, and just helping them out and caring about our fellow citizens.
Thank you. And now for the mayoral candidates, Mayor McCarthy.
The answer to the question is yes. The first thing I think, having been involved in this, is we need to get them the help that they need. What I discovered in talking to the police, that there was no street walking, a community outreach worker who actually triages the problems, whether they be medical, whether they be housing, whether they be anything that they really need. So what I did is to put out an RFP to get community outreach services. No one bid on that RFP, not one person. No one bid on our proposal for the Housing Trust Fund to have up to 4 families. We would agree to put down a substantial amount of money for down payment assistance. No one bid on it, and it was greatly advertised for local people or not. So, another thing that I think we need is, we need another detox in the city of Waltham. We always had a detox. You cannot get help until you get yourself sober or clean. So I think that's the first step. We are looking at, with MHSA, bringing back some detox in Waltham.
Thank you. Representative Stanley?
Thank you. I certainly support rights for the homeless, but what I think we need in Waltham is a broader community discussion. You know, we have 250 homeless individuals walking the streets of Waltham right now, and a lot of their issues have to do with drug addiction and alcoholism. And you know, I started a Waltham Drug Task Force group recently that we're starting to address all the issues that go along with drug addiction and the seriousness of the drugs that are out on the street right now. And actually, we have Health and Human Service Secretary Mary Lou Sutters of Massachusetts coming here into this room Tuesday at 5 o'clock to talk about what the state is doing and what we in the community can do. But I believe we need a Health and Human Service Director in Waltham that can help coordinate activities. And I believe we need a community discussion about what our policy is going to be in helping individuals in Waltham. And I'm not liking the song at the setup. There's not a lot of time to talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this next question goes to the city council candidates. For youth in our community, being involved in clubs and activities is an important part of childhood. But for kids from low-income families, the cost of these activities and lack of transportation are big barriers. What are we doing or can we do to reduce these barriers? Councilor Fowler? Sally Coleman.
Thank you. I served on the board of the Waltham Boys and Girls Club for many years, and they do great things. There are so many corporations that have redone some of the rooms. Some very well-known music artists have donated things like dozens of guitars and keyboards and that sort of thing. But I also do know that if you can't afford to pay the annual membership fee to the Boys and Girls Club, they will cover it. If you can prove that you can't afford it, and I know many people who can't afford it, have been able to send their children there and keeping them off the streets, out of trouble, doing positive stuff, and later on becoming mentors to other kids younger than them. And I believe the YMCA also has the same program. And I do know a couple of families of low income that were able to send their children there too. I think we're doing a lot in that regard, but more can be done. And how? To get more corporate sponsors to support these groups. The Chill Zone down on Moody Street and the skate and scoot is really wonderful. And I do know people that have had their children's birthday parties there at a fraction of the price than going to someplace like Chuck E. Cheese. It's not a commercial for Chuck E. Cheese.
Thank you.
But, thank you, and my time's up. Thank you so much.
Councilor LeBlanc?
We're fortunate in Waltham to have many organizations, including the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, and Salvation Army, which offer extensive programming for our kids. And these organizations do receive community block grant money, but we need to do more to support them. For several years, I've served on the Safe Schools, Healthy Schools Coalition, now called the Waltham Youth and Community Coalition. and the importance of keeping kids busy is always emphasized, as are the barriers, including transportation, having to pay even a minimal fee, and getting the word out about these programs to families that have a need. I spoke at a tenants meeting at Prospect Hill this past summer, and members were surprised to learn that the YMCA offered a free membership to every teen during the summer. They also didn't know about teen night on Friday nights at the Y. Again, transportation was noted as a major barrier. I know myself, I sponsored an after-school field trip this past year by providing the needed transportation. This isn't rocket science. We need a van or use of the trolley, perhaps both. We need drivers, and the service should be free and available to credible organizations within the city who are taking care of our kids. Perhaps the city can negotiate for after-hours transportation services as part of the next school bus contract. There is no doubt if we could offer transportation with pickup and drop-off at WHA properties with children, and perhaps a few other key locations, we would be providing a tremendous service to our kids. And we also need to figure out how to offer these services for free, as we do with the chill zone at the community center, which is such a great asset.
Thank you. Councilor Logan?
Thank you. We have excellent, is this one? Yeah, it's got to hold it right away. We have excellent recreational programs and facilities in the city of Waltham. One thing I'm particularly proud about was many years ago, I got them to build a skateboard park up on Moody Street. That was my initiative, and I just love it when I go by there and see the kids using that. It gives them, you know, an opportunity to do something for free. It's healthy. It's outdoor recreation. We're in the middle of designing the reconstruction of the Gilmore Playground. It will include the first ever futsal court in the city of Waltham. I think one of the things that we do in Waltham that's very important is in our schools, all of the after-school programs by the Waltham Public Schools, there's no fee associated with it. Even wealthy communities like Newton, for things like clubs and sports programs and to be in the band, they have to pay fees. We don't have that in Waltham. I think we should keep that free and even expand those programs, more arts, more music. And finally, I think it's important for everybody to support programs like the Waltham Boys and Girls Club and the Boy Scouts. I do a lot of volunteer work with the Boy Scouts here in Waltham. And we do a lot of fundraising to make sure that if there's anyone that can't afford being in the Boy Scouts or going to Boy Scout summer camp, that we can afford to pay for that through our fundraising. Thank you.
Greg Turner?
Thank you. I've served over 30 years on a scholarship committee in Needham. That scholarship was set up in the name of my brother. My brother David passed away at Needham High School in 1969. It has served so many people over the years. I can't begin to tell you how many people that you think had it, including people in Needham, was a relatively well-to-do community, and how much it means to people to have a hand up, not a handout, but a hand up. And these programs, the school events and so forth. I was a member of a band. When my brother passed away, I was in 8th grade. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know. My life was upside down. Band, and the high school band, and the junior high school band, and Boy Scouts. I was an Eagle Scout. I still get chills because I think what my life would have turned out if I had not had access to those programs. My family was fortunate enough to be able to afford to send me to where any of those kinds of things that I wanted to do. Many of the kids in Waltham and also in Needham don't have that opportunity. And giving out a small amount of money so that they can participate and feel equal with everybody else, that means the world to these kids.
Thank you. Carlos Vidal?
Thank you. On the south side where I live, we have an outstanding opportunity with the new redesigned plans for Cotujan and Gilmore playgrounds. Once we rebuild these parks, it's going to happen over the next couple of years, we're going to ensure that there's programming available for kids who live in those neighborhoods. We need to work with programs such as the rec department, Waltham Youth Soccer, and so on, to be able to bring those programs to here, because I know of people
parents who live near my neighbors who are actually not able to have kids sign up for Waltham Youth Soccer because the fields are over up in North Waltham. And that's a problem. Transportation is an issue. Some people work 2 to 3 jobs to keep the family afloat, and that's not gonna work out. So if we were to have those fields in the south side, where a lot of the low-income families are located, it would make a lot more sense. I'm a big supporter of getting kids involved. I'm a big supporter of kids being outside playing using these fields. Hopefully that will happen sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Nazar.
Thank you. Well, playing youth sports in Waltham, I noticed that the coaches and the staff always went out of their way to make sure that people had rides and that there was a willingness somewhere and that there were scholarships available. And if that's a problem today, we should really lean on the Park and Rec Department to make sure that that's still the case, because all of these activities are going on at city-owned fields. So one thing I'd say is football was easy for me because it was at Leary Field, which was centrally located, and I could walk there. We built a high school that's like a citadel on a hill. It's like a prison up there. We should have a more centrally located high school. And right now, the school building committee is looking at that. I think a priority for them should be to put a high school closer to where the people are, so that it doesn't assume that every kid that goes to the high school has to have a car to get there. I grew up in a one-car family. I mean, it's an assumption that you will have a car in order to play some of the sports at the high school, because when they get out, the school sports get out very late, same with other activities, and there isn't a bus. So either someone's giving you a ride or something else, because even to walk from the top of the high school down to Lexington Street is a hike. So it's not central. The high school is not only not centrally located to North Waltham, but it's certainly not centrally located to the rest of the city. So I hope that's something that the school building committee will think of as they look at the new school location.
Thank you. And Councilor O'Brien.
Thank you, Paul. I think we're very blessed to have a lot of phenomenal athletic activities for our youth in this city. Guys play soccer at Veterans Field, and it's a source of pride for all of us, particularly when people come from outside the city here. I love the fact that we have those fields. My other daughter Amelia swims across the street over here, which is very affordable. They went to a birthday party at the former South Middle School, the community center. We have the new pitch and putt up at Crossman Hill. We have a new park opening up at Cedarwood. We have a new park opening up in Nippamar Park. So, you know, the parks really have been rejuvenated over the last few years. I think one area we could possibly improve is have maybe more carpooling, maybe more use of social media to coordinate transportation, maybe add some vans and maybe minibuses at the end of the day to help coordinate transportation for some of our youth who can't get to these places. I went to a soccer practice recently, and just talking to some of your friends and colleagues, you realize we had 3 of us commuting from the same neighborhood to go across the city. I said, why don't we talk a little bit more and get a carpool going like the old days?
Thank you. We're a little bit over the halfway point at this point, and I just want to say thank you at this time for the answers so far, and thank you to everyone here for the attention. It's good to see so many people here and interested. The next question will be for the mayoral candidates. The trail users of the Waltham Land Trust have noticed a marked increase in homeless people tenting and/or having campfires in Waltham's green spaces. And the police have documented there are 250 individuals living outside in Waltham. As winter approaches, what plans would you put in place to increase the availability of emergency shelter? Mayor McCarthy.
So I met with a whole bunch of people, all stakeholders involved in this issue. And I said to them, Bright School is not a shelter. Wasn't designated, it's designated by a temporary shelter. But I believe that there should be something that takes care of the continuum of care. That includes housing, medical, food, suggested services, employment training, supportive services, recidivism, detox. So, what I would like to see, right now there are 2 issues. One, we know there are 250 homeless. Why? Because the Waltham Police Task Force went out, and actually went out, task force to try to find out how many do we have, what do they need, and they've been working on that. But the real issue comes now. What are you going to do during the day? What are you going to do at the night? Waltham has 3 shelters, and Sergeant Bob Scarpone said there are not enough shelters But Mayor, most of these people are not from Waltham, but they're in Waltham, and we have to take care of them. So what I would like to see is a compact with the homeless. So that we're gonna take Church Street building, and they're gonna be able to go there. That's gonna be their home. They're gonna take care of it. They're gonna be able to have showers. They're gonna be able to keep clean. Right now, Waltham keeps things open so that they can go to the bathroom. This is not acceptable. However, there is not enough shelter space with MHSA. So MHSA, with the community outreach, has agreed to take over, have their place open. They have to leave at 6 in the morning. Then they're bounced out after that. So the real issue is, where can they go that it's their home? And when it's their home, I want to make sure that they're taking care of the place, they're taking care of each other. If we have a compact with the homeless and bring them to the table, as well as all the other people that are trying to help, the Community Day Center, the Waltham Police, MHSA, but this is really a much bigger issue. It's a state issue, and we need DHCD to come in and help. And I'm not talking about $3 million worth of homeless hotels every single year. It's a much bigger issue. Thanks.
Thank you. Representative Stanley.
Thank you. Well, I'm proud to have received an award by the Watch organization several years ago for advocating for affordable housing, and each and every year when they come to the State House to ask legislators to support various programs like home base, residential assistance for families and transportation, or otherwise known as RAFT, or housing, consumer education centers, housing preservation stabilization fund. I always advocate, I always support it, I always advocate for that and provide my voice, for them at the State House. The Bright School last year was used as a homeless shelter at night, and it was a wet shelter, and that was a mistake. There needs to be coordination. If you're going to be providing shelter for folks, it has to be a dry shelter, I believe. You can't have people being dropped off from whether within our community or dropped off from other communities that are actively on drugs or alcohol and going into the building and have no supervision. That's what happened last year, and that can't happen again. I do support having a facility in Waltham, which the mayor was just speaking about. I think that's a good idea. I'm not so sure. It's the first I've heard about that location. I know there are a number of city buildings that aren't being used, one of which is the city dog pound down on Felton Street that might be an appropriate use as well. But we need to have places for them to be, so they're not hanging out at the library or on the Waltham Common, causing problems. It doesn't mean that they can't use these facilities like everyone else. They have that right to do so. But you can't be doing drugs or drinking alcohol downtown or on our parkways or on our common and expect that everything's okay. We have to have behaviors that everyone abides by.
Thank you. The next question will be for the city council candidates.
We want Waltham to be a place where everyone who works here can also afford to live and raise a family in the community. What policies or programs does Waltham have, or could we have, to support low-wage workers, especially around housing? Councilor.
No, I have no shit.
Still Roberts.
Councilor Ballard.
As I said in the opening, we have not done a good job of building affordable housing. The minimum amount is being built by developers, money into the trust fund that's not being used to build housing. Our record is just abysmal. That's why we have a rental program that probably it's not a solution at all, it's just buying some time. Hopefully it sends a signal to people that maybe the city is more welcoming now than it's been for the last decade. When every project that came in gets shot down. So it's all about building housing. It's all that people can afford. And I do believe with home ownership is a good idea. Watch built house, two-family houses on Charles Street several years ago that are still affordable units that have to be sold as affordable, and that's what we have to be looking at.
Thank you. Councilor Logan?
As I said before, we could amend the zoning ordinance regarding the inclusionary zoning to increase the set aside for affordable housing from 10% to 15% in cases where they actually dedicate units. That would increase the number of units. In cases where they contributed to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, that would increase that fund. I think that we need to make better use, or really make use, of the available funding in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and in the Community Preservation Act Fund to create more affordable housing. And finally, just increasing the housing stock in the city. One of the biggest reasons that we have the problem of lack of affordable housing is because of an overall housing crisis in the northeast region of the country in general. That's why the cost of living is so high. That is why affordable housing is such a problem. Anytime you increase housing at any level of the spectrum through supply and demand, you're going to exert a downward force on prices on all levels of the spectrum. So just increasing housing stock in general in the city will address that problem.
Thank you. Councilor McMahon?
Thank you. It's amazing how we've come full circle. The first and most legally sustainable policy that Waltham enacted was written and proposed by me and adopted by the Waltham City Council back in 1988 and 1989. When I had 2 years, I had a fight to get that through the council. It was called inclusionary zoning. It mandates that affordable units be set aside in perpetuity in housing developments that Waltham allows by special permit, and there are a lot of them. Units in the Watch Factory, the new Currents on the Charles, and the new Mercantile Building will have these affordable units. Indian Ridge, Clock Tower Drive, and others have them as well. There is a housing division of our Waltham Planning Department. It administers several programs. The Housing Rehabilitation Program, which provides interest-free loans to low and moderate income people, and Security Deposit Program, which provides security deposits for those who qualify. Additionally, that last lease that has been signed on the Hardy School apartments, and that whole entire unit is now 100% occupied. So those are policies and programs we have in place currently, and certainly I have been involved from the get-go and intend to stay involved.
Thank you. Councilor Lazar?
Thank you. I guess with affordable, the affordable question, the question is always affordable to who. The most Googled term about Waltham is, why is Waltham so cheap? So when people are looking for houses, some people find it affordable. It's true, it was in the Globe. Must be true. So that being said, I think one thing that we could do for our citizens to make them more connected to the services that are available is have a social worker on staff with city government that could help identify the services that people need. Now, I authored, in addition to our ordinances, to create the position of Assistant Director of the Health Department for Human Services that could work across the many city departments we have. We have veterans and seniors, and everyone's sort of doing a little thing, but we're not coordinated. And I noticed this when we had the opiate epidemic, and it didn't seem like we had a city department that could act as a convening authority for this. So I think that one way that we could do a better job as a city is to actually have a social worker or two on staff to help people navigate the system, help them know what resources are available, and act as a navigator for them. Because right now, we don't have that, and the people that provide social services to the citizens of Waltham right now is the Waltham Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll come down to Senator
Thank you. So I don't claim to have all the answers, but we need to begin the dialogue as a community. And we need to begin the dialogue on the city council and certainly in the mayor's office as well. When I go from city to city, town to town, in my job, I notice things. Up in Westford, there's a developer who created on a few acres of land mini houses. And they're like 2 and 3 bedroom homes. It's a condo community, but they're smaller versions of a large house. Great starter home for a family, and they're all affordable. And this is what this particular developer does, and he is good at it. I think that we need to look in that direction. I was disappointed with the bank school because I thought the bank school was going to be affordable apartments, and turned out to be condos. When I was on the city council, we approved a development down on Rumford Ave, and that development never took place. It's an old factory building, and now it's just boarded up. We could look at buildings like that, use CPC money, housing trust money, and actually create housing, whether it's apartments, condos, first-time buyers, and then turn it over as affordable, as Watch did several years ago on Charles Street. Look at the buildings like Rumford Ave. Look at the buildings perhaps in North Waltham, and let's get creative, because I think we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Councilor O'Brien?
Thank you. I think first and foremost is you have to have a vision. And I think of Father Verrill over at St. Mary's several years ago. St. Mary's parishioners used to play bingo where the old St. Mary's High School was. And the building was kind of deteriorating and it was kind of falling apart. And Father Verrill had the vision to turn that into affordable housing for seniors. And it came out, it's absolutely beautiful. So a lot of seniors are able to live at St. Mary's. So when you see, a building that may be running down, it's maybe time to convert it to affordable housing. You got to work with the agencies, you got to work with HUD, and work with the city, try to secure the funding to convert these facilities into affordable housing. On a personal note, I think that with college graduates, they just graduate, they need to be educated in real estate. I got out of college from BC, I was broke, I had no idea. I went and rented an apartment for a couple of years and basically lost that money. And then after that, I was able to buy a condo at Northgate, and then several years later, I sold that, was able to buy my house in Cedarwood. So if young college grads, can pool their money together and maybe buy a property and then be able to sell it later and just invest rather than rent, that could be a big step for affordable housing.
Thank you. Next question will be for the mayor candidates. Watch is a founding member of the Funnel Working Group. Would you support the city hiring a project planner to guide a comprehensive strategic planning process for the use of the Fernald property? Why or why not?
The answer is yes. Additionally, during the Fernald use meetings that were taking place over 12, 13 months at the city, the state brought in, when they were in charge of the process at that time, the state brought in a lot of people. They had a lot of studies done. They had the planning department also turned around and did maps with regard to the delineation of the property, where the wetlands were, where the buildings were historic. So there was a lot done. But now that we own it, what I said from the very beginning, that we need to relieve the flooding problem downstream. Waverly Oaks Road, Upton Road, Shirley, they actually get water coming out of their basements. They get it in their foundations. So we need to relieve that. The state built on the cottages, they built right over a wetland. So the first step that we needed to do was to delineate that wetland. I put that out for an RFP to basically take down the 20 buildings that are in that area. So, but that's needed. The rest of it, the 140 acres that was purchased with CPA money has certain restrictions on it. The 50 acres in the back, which was the compromise, doesn't. But there's a use committee meeting of the city council and the mayor, but I think both parties have to get together to hire a planner and have joint meetings, so that where the joint meetings are, they all come in. So as far as I'm concerned, once those buildings come down to take up the wetlands, so we can expose that, I think that's a beautiful area that we can have a swimming in the summer, a skating pond in the winter, the sledding hill, so that will preserve the front of the Trapello Road. There are a lot of other uses that could go on that site, but it's zone conservation recreation, and the mayor has no authority in zoning. But I think it needs to be community-driven. We are in charge of this property, not any developers. Thank God the city of Waltham and the citizens of Waltham are in charge of it.
Thank you. Representative Seaman.
Thank you. I've worked very, very hard on this issue for a very long time. I take a back seat to know, and I know a lot of people work together to protect the fertile land from overdevelopment. To answer your question specifically, just last year, Councilor Vazard and I sponsored a resolution which passed the City Council to call for just this very thing, for the mayor to hire a consultant to do a complete asset assessment of the property, a cost-benefit analysis, and so we would know exactly what we're dealing with up there at the Fernal. Nothing has happened. This has been a complete failure of my opponent for not doing this. It has been a leadership board that has been filled in part by the Fernal Working Group. The problem is the Fernal Working Group or the City Council doesn't have the authority. The Mayor's office is the only position that has the authority to initiate that process. Every single other community in the Commonwealth, if not the country, with opportunities like this, hire an outside firm to do the complete analysis that I just spoke about and a complete public process so that we can have a community discussion. We all know exactly what we're dealing with, exactly what everything is going to cost, and then make a community decision to move forward. But that hasn't happened in Waltham, and this is, it's a huge opportunity, and it's also a huge risk. And I think it's extremely important to not elect a person who has failed to do this for the last, many years, in the last year in particular. And when I'm elected, this will be one of my first acts as mayor.
Thank you. So this question will be the last one for the city council candidates, so, yep. If you have a check, now would be a good time to use it.
I should hold it like this so I don't have to go first.
One of Waltham's strengths is our diversity. According to the U.S. Census, 29% of Waltham residents are African American, Latino, or Asian. What ideas do you have to promote more diverse representation of our population in city government, both on city council and in other leadership positions? Sally Coleman?
Thank you. Well, I think outreach is the word. I think outreach is the key. Many decades ago, I worked in an environment where I was leading a large group of international employees from every country you can imagine. So they were all speaking different languages, and they weren't speaking English, and that created a little bit of tension out on the production floor. So what I did was I came up with this thing that once every 3 months or so, we would have an international luncheon. And I'm only bringing this up as an example of what we can do. I gave them an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. I told them, draw your flag. And in the production floor, around the walls surrounding the production floor, we had flags from every country you could imagine, and the most delicious food from different countries. So we can do something like that. I mean, we have a Latino festival on Waltham Common every year. We have an Italian festival now on Waltham Common. I think outreach with between community and elected officials, holding office hours and actually reaching out to the Asian population, to the Latino population, and the Caucasian population. population that doesn't get involved like you people do in local government. So I think outreach is the key, and there are so many ways that we can do that. Again, we can get creative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Fowler?
Yeah, the first thing that has to be done is you have to make people feel that they're welcome. When they walk through City Hall, they walk into a fire station, a police station, they have to see people that look like them. They have to make them feel welcome. You know, it's a hard thing to do, but you really have to do it. There's not a lot of diversity in the workforce here, and you have to start doing it. We need, it's all about just feeling that you're part of it. When it's really a hard thing to describe, but I mean, when you walk in somewhere, if there's nobody else like you, you don't feel that you're part of anything. And lots of our programs are wonderful. A lot of the recreation department programs are all-inclusive and so forth, but I think it's important in hiring that we diversify the workforce a little bit so that people feel more comfortable as they use services.
Thank you.
Councilor
Thank you very much. I had to think outside of the box on this one. I represent significant diversity. Some of you might be questioning to yourselves, what does she mean by that? Well, please let me tell you what I mean. I'm the first woman ever to serve as a ward councillor, and currently only one of 2 women in a city comprised of over 50% women. Look around the room here. I'm the only city councillor in Waltham's history to give birth while on the city council. Top that one. I'm only one of 3 breezes out of a 15-member city council. I am the most senior member of the city council currently. I am the single veteran member of the city council who has never been elected to the leadership position of city council president in my 30-year service. I hope that my presence on the city council encourages others like me or different from me to run for public office.
Greg Turner?
Hope City Council was a meeting that you had a kid. I'm a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male, United States citizen. Some of my ancestors came to this country and to Massachusetts as early as 1680. I am a son of the American Revolution, as at least 2 of my ancestors fought the American Revolution on Manhattan Island as part of the Connecticut militia supporting George Washington. That revolution was fought for an idea. The idea is that all men and women are created equal. All means all. There's no 2 ways about it. Those are my ideals. We need to do much more to reach out to the minority communities, not just a community, but communities, and solicit both their participation in the electoral process. Carlos Vidal is a good example of that. We need to also, as Bill Fowler said, solicit their participation in city employment. One simple thing that we could do is we could offer SAP, that's a Spanish-speaking translation, of our city council meetings and school committee meetings. Why don't we do that? That would be a very easy thing for us to do. I have a Chinese sister-in-law. I was the best man at their wedding. My mom was instrumental in getting the first black family to live in our neighborhood, and their last name also happened to be George Turner. And I'm very proud to be a full supporter of diversity in every aspect of American life.
Thank you. And Carlos Vidal.
Thank you. You know, this is actually a difficult answer, or difficult way to put this. If I get elected, I will be the first Latino to be a member of City Council. And with that comes great responsibility. Responsibility to be a good leader for the community. It's something that we'll embrace.
I will work to be an example, engage Latino community, and to get more people involved in the decision-making process. I will work hard to engage the community and hopefully serve as a role model for a lot of Latino youth in Waltham. Maybe at one point or another in their life, they'll actually decide to get involved, be empowered, run for city council, run for mayor, be part of different boards in the city. I came to Waltham in 2003 because it was a welcoming city. I was coming out of Boston. And Waltham received me with open arms, and I was very excited. I was very happy, and I'm not moving out of Waltham. It's my city. As I said before, I am originally from Peru, and I moved to the U.S. when I was 12 years old. I did not speak a word of English. And here I am running for city council. This is a great country. Thank you.
And this will be the last question for the mayor candidates. How have you used, or would you use, the Housing Trust Fund to increase the stock of affordable housing? Mayor McCarthy.
First of all, we never wanted to be, and I never wanted to be in the real estate business. When they created the Housing Trust Fund, I indicated that I would take 2 schools and make those affordable. Initially, I did not want to have bank school affordable, but I decided that it was the right thing to do. So there are 19 units that were used, not with Housing Trust Fund money, it was used with Housing Partnership money. Some of it was from Mr. McDowell, some of it was from Pulte because they didn't do what they were supposed to do correctly. So there was about 600,000. So we basically took Hardy School and made 19 apartments, and that's some 2-bedrooms, some 1-bedrooms, and those are affordable for seniors. Also 3 at bank school condos. But I also believe in this. I basically got Fernald. Fernald has an opportunity to use more money. We have at the Housing Partnership been discussing taking the 3 buildings, the 3 historic buildings out front. So that we brought in some builders, brought in some people from the housing division and some architects to look at creating some housing with those 3, using that. We also took $150,000 for downtown assistance. Now, we are exploring these things as in our role as Housing Trust Fund to create different housing. We used up all of the money that was there. We basically transferred it back. When banks comes in, the money has already been paid. So the Housing Partnership now has another 1.4 million. So it's very difficult to be in the housing business. We shouldn't be in it. It should be somebody else doing that. But with the surplus schools, we did what we said. All 19 units are full at Hardy, and 7 units have been moving along for sale at banks. Now, I'd like to say one other thing if I could. When I first became mayor, 2 schools for housing. Fernald School, we're going to get it. And I also put forth the matrix study. The matrix study was an organizational study to basically look at the departments. They recommended a human service department. The city council didn't agree to it. So I'm willing to work with everybody, but when we get an expert that says it, I wish we could get it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Stanley.
And your question was?
Repeat it. How have you used or would you use the Housing Trust Fund to increase the stock of affordable housing?
Well, first of all, it took way too long to get the Hardy School apartments up and running. In the bank's school situation has been a complete disaster, money pit, millions of dollars going down the drain. And I was the original purpose was to provide some senior and affordable housing. I was the only city councilor to vote against not having 3 of the units at the banks affordable units. And the Housing Trust Fund, it's a bad idea to do what the city did with the bank school. Real bad idea. The city should never be in the business of creating housing itself. It doesn't know how to do it. Do you, I personally, I think we should think about not having any additional money come from developments into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and just mandate that they create affordable housing themselves. And I also support going from 10% to 15%. I think the majority of the council does as well. And we're going to do that with the comprehensive zoning analysis that is underway right now. You know, aside from that, the rental housing voucher program, I hope it passes because that may be a way to use the Affordable Housing Trust money as well. You know, if we have a quarter of our people that live in this city that are in this situation, we need to do a better job to help as many people as possible to get that leg up and to be able to buy their own first property. Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it for this forum. Let's hear for the candidates.